This is Cruise Radio.
I cruise a lot, and I always sail with travel insurance. You should too. Get a free quote today at tripinsurance.com.
Here we go.
Broadcasting from the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. This is Cruise Radio.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Doug Parker. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Cruise Radio. Very happy to have you here, my friend. Hope you're staying warm out there, or at least if you're in the U.S. On today's show, staff writer Richard Sims checking in with cruise news, as always, in a review of Disney Dream. But jumping to Richard first. Hey, man.
Hey, Doug.
We kick things off with proof that when it comes to cruise ships, bigger isn't always better.
You know, for years, the cruise industry has been rolling out bigger and bigger and bigger ships. I mean, when we think of the world's largest ships, we think of Royal Caribbean, who are constantly topping themselves in that department, even if it's just by a few inches with each ship, so that they get all the publicity that goes with releasing another ship that is the world's largest. But Disney ships have been getting bigger too over the years. And their largest ever, the Disney Adventure, is going to be debuting in the Asian market later this year. That ship will carry up to 6,000 passengers. But we now know that after that, Disney's going to launch an as yet unnamed new class of ships, which will actually be smaller. In fact, significantly smaller. We mentioned a minute ago that like the Disney Adventure is going to carry 6,000 guests. This new class will carry around 3,000 guests. They're also being designed to be more fuel efficient, and the next few years, we will definitely see Disney significantly add to their capacity, even with these smaller ships. And by 2031, they're expected to have a total of 13 ships in their fleet, which is kind of crazy. I mean, I remember when they rolled out their first ship. So to know that in this relatively short period of time, they've become such a big thing, and that by 2031, they'll have 13 ships, that's kind of incredible.
Yeah, and speaking of Disney, passengers that were slated to sail on one of their ships found out that, well, a lot of trips have been canceled.
Yeah, it's sort of a good news, bad news scenario for people with plans who thought they were going to be sailing on the Disney Fantasy later this year. The bad news is that 4 sailings on that ship have been canceled due to a change in the dry dock schedule. The good news is that the impacted sailings were for October and November of this year, meaning there's still plenty of time to like make other arrangements. Obviously, that's probably not really good news for people who thought their vacation was a done deal. They thought everything was all set. All they had to do was like, you know, make final payment and get to Port Canaveral, where the ship would be sailing out of. I think the people who are probably most disappointed are the ones who were booked on the 13-day transatlantic that was going to bring the ship from Southampton on October 20th over to Port Canaveral. The other 3 sailings after that are just, you know, regular week-long sailings. Not to say that those people won't be disappointed too, but a transatlantic is special. Yeah. You know, you plan for that, you book it in advance. Plus, because it was leaving on October 20th and was 13 days, it was also a Halloween cruise. And Disney goes all out for Halloween, whether it's in the parks or on the ships. So that's kind of a double blow. They are giving people, they're helping people rebook other itineraries, and they are also giving them, as well as, you know, any monies that have been paid, they'll get refunded. They'll also get a 20% future cruise credit. But sometimes this just happens, you know, that's one of there are many benefits to booking far in advance, but one of the downfalls is that sometimes things can shift around, and whether it's that a ship is being repositioned or a ship like in this case, they suddenly have a dry dock opening and decide to slot it in there, this can happen.
Well, if you have an extra $200,000 laying around, there is a way to spend it.
People could plunk that money down on a 2026 annual pass with Virgin Voyages. Now, they offered this annual pass last year for $120,000. So it's going to cost you more in 2026. But there's a reason for that. They have significantly boosted what is included with this particular pass for 2026. There are a variety of months you can choose to start. Like you can start in January 2026 or February, March, I think up to April. And your pass is good from whenever you start for a year. But some of the perks include a week-long stay at Necker Island, which, if you don't know what that is, look it up online. It is the private island owned by Richard Branson. And gorgeous resort. Rooms there tend to go for around between $6,000 and $8,000 a night. So right there, you know, having a week at Necker Island, which, by the way, they will fly you to with your flight included. That's kind of a great perk. I love that they call it a complimentary week-long stay, as if you didn't just give them $200,000 for this annual pass, but they do. They call it, and I guess they think of it as a perk. So it's a complimentary week-long stay at Necker Island. Anyway, you get a whole bunch of other perks, including a birthday upgrade to one of their Rockstar suites, the ability to shake your phone and get a bottle of champagne, which they're very famous for. You can always do that, but here you get a bottle a day included. So every day you're on the ship and you shake your little phone, you can get a bottle of champagne delivered to you wherever you happen to be. You can sail as often as you wish on all the ships in the fleet. You could literally spend a year bouncing from ship to ship. So I don't know, for $200K, that seems like a pretty good deal. And that's, by the way, it's $200K, but you can also bring a guest. So like, if you and a guest want to sail for a year in a stateroom, I don't know if I know anybody who I could spend a year with in a stateroom that size, but if you wanted to, you could. So pretty sweet deal.
Have you seen anywhere, I've been trying to get the answer to this and I can't, how much it is out the door after you pay the fees and taxes on top of the 200 grand?
I haven't. I've been meaning to research that in case anybody's looking for a Christmas gift for me, but I haven't yet found the answer. In fact, we will try and get that for like next week's show. We'll try and have the answer. So come back and we'll talk about that. By the way, I'm kind of excited, speaking about Virgin Voyages. A while back, like ages ago, decided that I wanted to book a passage on their new ship, Brilliant Lady, which comes out in September. What I did not realize was that New York, my home port, is actually the first place this ship is going to be sailing out of. So I'm actually I'm not on the very first sail. I'm not on, what do they call it? A mermaiden voyage. Yeah. I'm not on the mermaiden voyage, but I'm on the second voyage of the Brilliant Lady. So very excited about that.
And we have a decades-old debate still going on about the future of one Caribbean cruise port.
Yeah, the Cayman Islands aren't the hotspot they once were, as it turns out. And that's causing a bit of concern among locals and certainly the local government. And the fact that they depend on tourism dollars in general and cruise dollars in particular. The big problem is that for years, there's been a steep decline in the number of cruise ships calling on the Caymans. And there's a big reason. It's a tender port. Now, it also doesn't particularly help that the Cayman Islands were the last to come back after the shutdown. So they had that to deal with. But on top of that, there are so many places you can go and they actually have piers that the fact that the Cayman Islands does not have a pier or a berth has been a real problem for them. In fact, one organization that's trying to change that situation reports that since around 2018, there's been a drop of more than 40% in cruise ship calls each year. There's been talk of building a pier, but not a lot of movement on that front. And now, as this all rears up again, there's going to be a vote later this year on whether or not to move forward with the project. And, of course, there are oppositional forces who are rallying their troops. And their first complaint right now is how kind of vague the question that is proposed to be on the ballot later this year is, which is basically like, do you think we should have a port or not? Very, very vague, generic question. But I think you're going to see both sides really making their cases in the months to come as to whether or not they need this in order to continue to be a viable port in the future.
And if you've ever wanted to help design a cruise ship, well, now's your chance.
Doug, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but cruisers have opinions, lots and lots of opinions. And we're always trying to get anyone to listen, especially if it happens to be somebody from the cruise lines. Well, Celebrity is now doing exactly that. They're bringing together people under a program they're calling Dream Makers, which will allow everyday cruisers to weigh in on various design elements for their new ship, the Celebrity XL. And that's XCEL, which is set to debut in November. This is going to be the fifth line in the ship. They've just announced there's a sixth ship in the line. I kind of thought that the fifth one would be the last, but apparently there is going to be a sixth ship, which we don't know a lot about right now. But if you're going to design this one, I'm betting you'll weigh in on that one too. Now, if you know anything about cruise ship design, you've probably figured out that those taking part in this aren't exactly going to be making, big decisions. It's the fifth ship in the Edge class, which means that this has been in the works for a while. when they launch the first ship in a class, the second, the third are already being developed. So, now that we're at the fifth, the basic footprint is already in place. So, there may be small changes from one ship in a class to the next, but it's not like they're suddenly going to put, I don't know, a snow garden on the top deck because people taking part in this process think that's a swell idea. But they will have an opportunity to weigh in on things like menu items and, some interior decor, things like that. People who sign up will also get a first crack at news about this new ship and the one that's coming after it as it goes through the process. I mean, frankly, it's a brilliant way to get a whole lot of email addresses and data from your core audience, while at the same time making them feel like they're part of this process. Like you are giving them the opportunity to help shape their future vacation. And who doesn't want to do that?
All right, listener question here. Sylvia from Buffalo. I was recently on a Norwegian cruise line ship which had to skip stopping at Great Stirrup because of weather. Any update on that pier they're supposedly building?
That is, yes, we do have news on that. They are moving forward. They broke ground on it. This is a $150 million project. They are very invested in this in every meaning of the word invested. They're hoping that it will double the number of guests who get to visit a Great Stirrup every year. They're saying it'll be about 700,000 guests. And that makes sense. It's easy to see how it will double for two reasons. First of all, this pier will allow them to dock two of their big ships at the same time. So, that's a whole lot of people coming to the island. But more importantly, as happened to Sylvia, as I've experienced, you've probably experienced, there are a fair number of times when ships can't actually, passengers on ships can't actually get to the island. And that's because of the tendering process. People always ask, why are so many, why are there so many cancellations when tendering's involved? And it's really, really very simple because, a big, huge cruise ship, say the Norwegian Breakaway, is trying to get passengers on shore via a tiny little tender boat. And if there are waves or wind, that big old ship can easily crash into the small ship. And that's clearly a very big hazard that they don't want to undertake. So all of the private islands are really moving toward this, toward becoming locations that have piers, which will eliminate the need for tender boats. That doesn't mean that the ships will always be able to call, because sometimes the weather is so bad that even with a pier, you are not able to dock at the private island. I just had that happen on my last Meraviglia sailing. The weather was so bad that we ended up having to skip the private island because even though they have a pier, they knew we could not safely land on it. So it doesn't necessarily mean that all cruises will be able to go to the private island, but a larger number of them than previously are able to will be able to make that trip.
Staff writer Richard Sims, as always, thank you, my friend.
As always, glad to be here.
The world is constantly changing. Your place for news is still the same. Online and on demand at cruiseradio.net.
A big question we get at Cruise Radio is, how do I know if I need trip insurance? Simple answer. If you're getting on a plane, taking a road trip, or getting on a cruise ship, you need to have travel insurance. Hey, it's Doug Parker from my friends at tripinsurance.com. Not only does tripinsurance.com protect your vacation investment, but it also gives you peace of mind in case anything were to go wrong on your trip. How do they do it? They offer 3 different types of trip insurance policies. Good, better, and best. One policy for every vacation budget. But it doesn't just stop there. They're up to 40% lower when you shop around on other comparison sites. Plus, tripinsurance.com offers 24-hour customer support before, during, and after your trip, online claims assistance, and travel alerts to let you know what's going on at your destination. But find out for yourself. Check out tripinsurance.com.
Have a tip or a lead on a news story? Let us know. Email tips@cruiseradio.net.
Margie just returned from a 5-night sailing aboard Disney Cruise Line's Disney Dream out of that remodeled terminal down there in Port Everglades over to the Bahamas, and both of their destinations. How you doing, Margie?
Doing well, thanks.
You're up in the Atlanta area. What made you want to jump on the Disney Dream for 5 nights?
Well, we do love Disney. My husband and I both like doing roller coasters and stuff. So we've been sucked into the whole Disney world and love it. And my husband actually took care of my dad pre-COVID. And to thank him, he bought us a cruise. And then COVID hit. So we've had this cruise mostly paid for about 5 years.
Wow.
We hesitated to go on a Disney cruise. We were like, we don't want to go on a Disney cruise, just the two of us. Well, my grandson just turned 5 and he really wanted to go with us. So he said, now's the perfect time to take that Disney cruise. We'll take him on the cruise with us and get to see it through the eyes of a 5-year-old.
Were you hesitant on doing Disney when they first got back into service in 2021?
No, it was just, we literally spent all that time trying to coordinate 3 kids with the grandkids.
Gotcha. Okay.
And could not. So we finally gave up on our grandkids and we were just going to go by ourselves and finally use this because it was paid for. Mm-hmm. And that's when we decided just to add the grandson to add it more fun since we were going to Disney. We usually cruise other cruise lines.
Gotcha. You make your way down to Port Everglades from the Atlanta area. Any pre-cruise time down in Lauderdale?
We did. We just flew in the night before. So that was nice and easy. And then, well, actually 2 of us flew in the night before. I had to work. So me and my grandson flew in late Friday night. My husband does not like to fly. He thinks airports are crazy. And after Friday, I kind of agree. So he drove down and met us at the airport and we stayed overnight in Fort Lauderdale and then just drove to the cruise port.
All right. So you parked. How long did it take you to get on the ship from the curb?
It was kind of a madhouse from the parking lot until you got inside the terminal. It was just a ton of people, no lines, not a lot of direction. That probably took 15 to 20 minutes. But the minute we walked in the terminal, everything was very organized. From the minute we walked into the terminal till we were on the ship was probably less than 10 minutes.
So you told me you've sailed Disney a couple of times before, so you're no stranger to the ship. So you walk on board. What were your first impressions this go around? And what did the little one think about them calling the name and everything out when you boarded?
He thought that was really cool because he was kind of like looked around like, that's my name. And it's a beautiful atrium. So you're kind of mesmerized every time you walk on one of the Disney ships. They are just beautiful.
What kind of stateroom did you book for this 5-night cruise? And what were your thoughts of it? We
had one of the deluxe family verandas. So that was really nice. We had plenty of room. We had the outdoor balcony. The family staterooms give you the split bathroom. So you have a toilet and a sink in one room and then the shower and a sink in the other. And that was really nice having the separation.
Do all of Disney's cabins have the split bathroom there, or is it just select categories?
You have to get the family category to get the split bathroom. Just the regular deluxe stateroom only has the single. Okay, and this might be a stupid question, but what actually makes it a family stateroom? Is it just larger? Well, depending on the room, it will sleep between 3, 4, or 5 people. The very first time we ever went on Disney, we were in a room that had the Murphy bed. So it did actually sleep 5 people in one of these family staterooms. It's about 70 square feet bigger than the regular stateroom. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but on a cruise ship, that's a lot of room. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the food on board Disney Dream. We'll go up to the top. Is the buffet called Cabanas on this one? It is. Okay. And what were the impressions of your food in there? And what was the seafood situation like? They definitely served up the crab and the broiled shrimp, and we had a lot of it. Nice. The problem with Cabanas is just its limited hours. It seemed like if you were doing something before lunch, by the time you got there, they were closing up about 2:15. And we're like, wait a minute, there's no place to eat. There were plenty of places to eat, but we only made it to Cabanas one time for lunch. We made it there a couple times for breakfast. And as far as like the crowds or congestion in Cabanas, how was that? How did that play out through your sailing? I know you only went in there a couple of times. And is there places outside of Cabanas you could sit down and enjoy your buffet lunch? Yes. We were at Cabanas kind of towards the end where it was about to close up. So it really was not crowded at all, but there was still plenty of crab, the cold crab legs and the peel and eat shrimp. So that was wonderful. When we went there in the morning, it was pretty hectic in the morning. The one day we went and Cabanas had already closed for the afternoon. We just went over on the pool deck. They've got several restaurants that are pretty nice. I think we usually ate at Flo's V8. Cafe, which had pizza and chicken fingers, which is good for a 5-year-old.
Awesome. As far as outside of cabanas, are there any grab and go type places you can, whether it be like a piece of pizza or a snack or anything around the ship?
Yes. The pool, the cabanas is on the same deck as the pool. And right between the pool and cabanas is a couple different grab and goes where you could get your basics, hamburgers, hot dogs, pizza, chicken fingers. And then they had some really good salads and some fruit and some other stuff that you could just grab and go. And plenty of tables out there on the pool deck.
Let's talk about the main dining room for this 5-night cruise. Now, Disney has what they call rotational dining. So you're always moving dining rooms. How does that play out on a 5-night cruise like this? Because there are 3 dining rooms, so I guess you're overlapping 2 of them?
Yes. Because this is one of the older ships, they don't have the fancy shows that they have on the newer Disney ships. So it was just very elegant dining in 3 different rooms. We did the Enchanted Garden the first night, and very beautiful room. Now, your wait staff follows you. So even though you go to 3 different restaurants, the wait staff goes with you. So you have the same waiter and assistant the entire cruise. So they get to know what you want and things like that, especially with a 5-year-old who will only eat chicken fingers and French fries and apples. And our server was fantastic, and he would cut up an apple for our grandson every single night. So he actually got something decent in him. The second night, we went to Animator's Palette, and that's kind of cool. You've got the screens up, and Crush the Turtle is talking to you, and they do some different pictures on the screens. And so there's a little bit of interaction on that. And then the last night we went to the Royal Palace, and that was very similar to the Enchanted Garden, a beautiful place to eat, same wait staff. The food was excellent. Lots of options. Very, very good food. Very pleased. Now, one of the nights when we were in the Enchanted Garden for the second time, it was pirate night. So it was the pirate menu, no matter which restaurant you were in, and all of our wait staff was dressed up like pirates, and they give you pirate bandanas, encourage everybody to dress up like pirates. And then afterwards, of course, there's a show up on the pool deck with all the pirates, and that's the night that they shoot off fireworks. So that was the second night in the Royal Palace for us.
So actually a couple of questions here, but Pirate Night, fireworks. So, and I'm kind of thinking of just like how they do shows on a lot of the cruise lines where they'll do 2 different settings or seatings for different shows in the theater. Is the fireworks just kind of a one-time only, or do they do those twice as well?
No, the fireworks are one time only. On Pirate Night, they do a smaller show at the earlier show while everybody's at the late dining, and the later show for everybody that was at early dining. And then they do the final pirate show about 9:30, 9:45 after the second seating. And then the fireworks are about 10:30. So that's just the one-time fireworks for no matter which seating you were at for dinner.
Okay, gotcha. Now, is there a certain place on the ship? This might be a stupid question, but is there a certain place on the ship where you should go to get like the best view of the fireworks?
They recommend the pool deck. That's where the show is. Mm-hmm. But if you go up one deck above the pool deck, it's a great place to stand and watch the fireworks. But you can pretty much see them from anywhere around on the ship. Okay. Now, and back to the main dining room, with the breakfast service, do you have the same team then, or is it different, like whoever you just get that day, that morning? No, if you go to the restaurants, you get whoever you get. Our crew wasn't getting up early enough to have a sit-down breakfast, so we would just mosey up to Cabanas. Actually, most mornings it was me going to Cabanas and bringing back a plate for for my grandson. Nice. All right. Sending grandma up there to do the legwork. Gotcha. That's right. Very good. Did you do any specialty dining? We did not. We were hoping to, but we weren't sure how our grandson was going to do with the kids club. Mm-hmm. And it wound up being a good thing we did not have that reserved, because although he loved the kids club the day we went in and showed him around, once I explained to him that I was leaving, he was not having any of that. So he never once went to the kids club. So that did not afford us the ability to go there. Have you dined? This is your third time on Dream. Have you dined at Palo previously? We have not, but we have had drinks at the bar right outside of it, and it is beautiful. And this one also has like that district area down there that's adults only, like a bar scene. It does. It has the district with the different bars.
As far as the entertainment, you told us about the fireworks. How were the stage shows?
Well, it's Disney, so they were absolutely fantastic. I was really hoping that my grandson would want to stay in the cabin with with my husband and just watch some Disney on TV. But he decided he wanted to be my little partner for everything. So we wound up sitting in the very last row so we weren't bothering anybody else. And I got to see about half of the show as he was jumping in and out of his chair and thoroughly enjoying the popcorn that we got for the show. But the show itself was fantastic. We managed to see the Golden Mickeys, which was like a variety show. And we saw Beauty and the Beast. And then they had a magician one night, a family-friendly magician who was fantastic. And we didn't make the other shows because I got tired of chasing a 5-year-old around the show.
But isn't it so cool to see it through the eyes of a little one?
It really is.
Yeah,
it really is fun.
Did you take part in any character meet and greets or anything outside of the theater shows?
They had character meet and greets all throughout the ship the entire time, but he was not really into any of them until he saw Jack Sparrow. And on Pirate Night, we did get our picture made with Jack Sparrow. He thought he was cool. I guess he was just too cool for the princesses or for the other characters.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Now, as far as sea days, how was the ship with crowds and congestion?
They did a great job of spreading out the crowds. Even the pools were reasonable on the sea day. And it was a pretty full ship. One pool was deeper. We played in that one on the sea day. They did have an accident in the little kids' pool, and they have to completely empty that, scrub it down, and refill it. So we went to go back in that pool later that day, and the water was like ice. So we stayed in the pool that was a little deeper and just threw a life vest on him and said, you can swim. The pools, which I was surprised were not that crowded. They had a lot going on. They had trivia, and then they had some musicians. They had tons of character meet and greets. So it really dispersed the crowds pretty well.
What did you think of that adults only area? What is it called? The Cove?
Our room was actually 3 floors below the Cove, which is the adults area. And so we walked through the adults area every single time that we went anywhere. It was just the easiest elevator to go up. They have a really nice little coffee bar in there. That's where I'd go up every morning and get coffee. And then I would walk through the adults area, pool area, and just kind of cry a little bit every single day when we'd go to the pool because there were maybe 5 or 6 people in the adult area. I've told so many people the way to go on an adult trip is go on a Disney cruise. The adult areas are empty. They're fabulous.
Yeah. Straight on to the ports of call where you did we'll say a double dip because you got to experience both Lighthouse Point and Castaway. So talk to us about the first one. Give us the highlight, then we can go to the next one.
Well, the first stop was at Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point. That's Disney's new, not an island, but beach, private beach. And it was absolutely beautiful. It was a really, really, really long walk, just like everybody has complained about that I've read about, but it wasn't bad. My 5-year-old walked it without even any hesitation. So we got over there, and then they have trams that will take you over to the beach area. And the water was some really good waves. We were able to play in the beach and enjoy the ocean and actually get to ride some waves. So often the private islands are just so calm that it's just like hanging out in a pool. And this was really like hanging out in a beach. The sand was just so fine. It didn't hurt your feet. You could walk barefoot. You didn't have to have the water shoes. The food was really good, lots of different options, so you weren't waiting in line very long. It was a little tight finding a place to sit, but we only had to wait about a minute or two until somebody got up and we were able to find a place to sit and eat. So that was pretty good. The food was really good, lots of options. And then, of course, they had plenty of shopping if you wanted to spend your money while you were there. You can't take a 5-year-old without having to buy some beach tools. So we got our obligatory shovel and pail and spent some time building sandcastles.
So after your day there, was it straight to Castaway, or did you break it up with Nassau?
No, Nassau was in the middle.
Okay. And how was your day there?
Nassau, we took an excursion over to Blue Lagoon. And although we had been there once before, we should have known better than to book it. It's they roll a lot of people in and a lot of people out. And we went to the beach. It was a very quiet little lagoon, very rocky, very hard to walk, shallow, and the water was very, very, very cold. So it wasn't the most fun I'd ever had at the beach. We did walk around and we watched the sea lions. They do the interactions with the sea lions and the dolphins. That's always fun to watch. That's kind of why we booked that, so that our grandson could see that. But after that, we were really ready to go. The food was average. They were kind of the food police. They made sure you had one hamburger and that's it. You could not get a hamburger and a piece of chicken. You could get one or the other. And you had tickets for drinks. And I was like, excellent. I could really use a drink. Well, you could only get a fruit punch or a tea or a soda with that drink ticket. That was it.
Oh, geez. Let's not get too crazy. Wow. Got the police going there. Okay. So after you make your way back to the ship, now, because if I'm not mistaken, for Blue Lagoon, it picks you up right there where the ship docks, right? And it takes you right to Blue Lagoon and back to your ship, basically?
It did, yes.
Yeah. Now, if you want to do something like, you could do a beach day there, you could do the dolphin encounter. There's a few things to do there, right?
There are a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And they've got a VIP beach and a adult beach and all this. We just booked the basic beach. We wanted to have a place where he could play in the sand. And it would have been nicer had the weather not been cold enough that it was just miserably cold in the water. Gotcha. And again, the water was very rocky. Your next port of call was actually, I guess we should clarify, Lighthouse Point is part of Eleuthera, so it's like on the southern end of Eleuthera, so it's not really a private island, but the private island is Castaway, which you went to next. How was your day there? It was very nice. True Disney fashion. They picked you up, took you over. We went to the Pelican Plunge Beach, and the water was very still. So it was a nice place to just relax. We liked Lighthouse Key or Lookout Key better because it had the waves, and we were enjoying a little bit more of the riding the waves and enjoying the splashing. But at Castaway, it was beautiful. The sun had come back out. The water was warm. Well, the water was kind of warm, and we enjoyed playing in the beach, and the sand was fun. He played a lot in the sand, so we enjoyed that. The food was very good. We ate at True Barbecue. And it was not overly crowded because they have the 3 different food spots that you can go to. So that was nice. And then we just headed back to the ship. Okay, so I want to look at both of these, Lighthouse and Castaway, and get a couple of thoughts on 2 different questions I have. So for one, did you find that one island maybe had a little more people because, let's say, you didn't have to walk all the way there? Like, you think more people stayed on the ship because of that? Did that deter anyone? Because, on Castaway, you just dock right there on the island. I did not notice that it dissuaded anybody. Mm-hmm. If anything, I would think more people went there just being new, wanting to check out the new spot. Yeah. Both seemed crowded, but not uncomfortably crowded, like they were full. It was a full ship. So they did have the trams going from the boat along that long pier that you could either book ahead of time if you were disabled, or if you just thought you needed it, maybe you were with young kids or with an elderly parent, you could wait in line, and they were taking trams on that long route to get to Lookout Key. So I think that solved the problem of anybody that was hesitant because of the walk. Did you find that the food was better on one against the other? It seems the food was very, very similar on both. So you leave Castaway and you head to Fort Lauderdale, where it's time to sadly end the cruise. How was the debark process? The debark was fantastic. We literally walked off the ship, grabbed the luggage, walked straight to our car. It was so simple. The new facial recognition with the passports. If you've got a passport, you walk up, they take your picture, you just keep walking. It was so easy. Yeah, it certainly makes a difference. How much is their app integrated into your cruise experience? There are parts of the Disney app that are much better than other apps that I've worked with, and parts that are much worse. I struggled with their itineraries. It seemed like they kind of dished up whatever they wanted you to go to, and it was more challenging to find a list of everything. Whereas their communication, where texting between each other, was much better than most of the apps with other cruise lines that I've seen. And does it cost to text, like, in your party to other people or whatever? It does not. It's free, but you don't get an alert.
Gotcha.
So if you're staying on your Disney app where you're expecting it and you notice your notifications, it's very easy to see that you've gotten a text and to respond and see it, but you don't get an alert like a regular text.
Yeah.
So if you're not paying attention, it's easy to miss, but it's free.
Having sailed Disney Dream 3 times, do you have any first-time tips to offer someone who may be considering the ship?
It is definitely fun if you can spend a lot of time in the adult area because it is usually empty. If you're going to book anything, you need to definitely book it right as soon as you can at that 90-day mark because things fill up very, very fast.
Yeah, you got to snag that spot. Looking back, what was the biggest highlight of this cruise?
Like you mentioned earlier, seeing the characters and the Disney ship from the eyes of a 5-year-old just changed everything. He was just thought everything was exciting. Everything was fun. Things that we would just go, oh, it's just a little splash pad. He thought it was the coolest thing ever. And we did spend a lot of time at the Frozone ice cream. His favorite part in the whole ship, I think, was going to get that ice cream up next to the pool deck.
Nice. Always a favorite. All right. Well, in closing here, your final thoughts of Disney Dream.
We do really enjoy cruising with Disney because we like the characters and the feel of Disney and everything's just done really, really well. It was so much fun seeing it through, the eyes of a 5-year-old. We enjoyed the ship, the ports. So it was really just a fun trip.
I've been talking with Margie about her 5-night sailing on Disney Dream to the Bahamas out of Port Everglades. Margie, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Dougie, let's see what we got for you, buddy. Cruise Radio is produced at the tripinsurance.com studios in Jacksonville, Florida. Get cruise news, ship reviews, and money-saving tips every Thursday on Cruise Radio. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the show. If you want to help spread the word, give Cruise Radio a 5-star review. Find Cruise Radio where you listen to your favorite podcast or online at cruiseradio.net. I'm your announcer,